Hey guys, so today we're just going to spend some time to review on whatever it is that we've been doing and kind of get some practice in before tomorrow's quiz. Hopefully you watch this video. So the first questions here are just equation solving. So this first one probably pretty obviously just yells quadratic formula. So for this guy, I'll go ahead and write out the formula as usual. Okay. So now that we have our formula, we can go ahead and identify what our A, B, and C are in our equation. So we have A is the number stuck with the x squared, so it's the -2. B is going to be the number squished with the x, so -13. And then C is going to be the number that's just hanging out by itself on the outside, -6. Okay, once we have those all figured out, we can start plugging into our formula. So we have negative and then B. So -13 is our B, plus or minus the square root of B squared. So again, our B is -13. Squared minus 4 times A times C. Alright, almost there. This thing does not want to remember that I want to keep my pen skinny, so I'm sorry, it's going to get annoying, but I'm going to keep trying to switch to the skinny pen. Alright, times 2 times A. Alright, so now that we've plugged everything in, that's a 4, guys. Funky looking 4. Alright, so now we can go ahead and start to simplify our formula there. So this -13 here, that's going to turn into a +13. And in our radical, okay, remember, you're always welcome to type that into your calculator as you see it. So we can go ahead and turn on our calculator and type -13 squared minus 4 times -2 times -6. Oops. Okay, make sure you've typed it in correctly, and when you are confident, you get 121. So in our radical, we have 121. Wow, got that again. Okay, and then 2 times -2, -4. So now we have one more step to simplify it before we can break off into our two answers, and that is to take the square root of 121. So 13 plus or minus. Now the square root of 121 is 11, and if you don't know that right off the top of your head, you again can type that into your calculator and you get 11. So now we have simplified this as much as we possibly can. So it's time to break off into our two answers. One uses the plus, and one uses the minus. Alright, so this one, we have 24 over 2, which simplifies down to 12. And this one, we have 2 over 2, which simplifies down to just 1. Okay, and that is how you do that problem. And next. Alright, so this problem right over here, it's just a game of distributing and moving things around until we have it looking how we want it to look. Okay, so the first thing you want to do when you see all these parentheses is distribute. And you want to do all of the distribution as your first step. So -4 times x is -4x. -4 times -8 is +32. And on the other side, that 3x is just as is. And we have 2 times x is 2x, 2 times negative 6 is negative 12. Okay, once we've done that work, everything's free from the parentheses, and we can go ahead and start moving things around, combining like terms. Okay, so on the left side, we can see that 5 and 32 are both numbers, and so they can combine to create 37. So we have a 37, and then that minus 4x stays as is. And on the right side, we have these two terms that can be combined, and then 2x and 3x turn into 5x. And that negative 12 stays as is. Nobody to combine with negative 12. All right, so now that there's no more combining left to do on each side of the equal sign separately, we can move stuff around. So I'm going to go ahead and add this 4x to this side. And if you hear yelling in the background, I apologize. That is my roommate. All right, so we're left with 37 on this side. And on the right side, we have 9x minus 12. All right, we're almost done. Just 2 more steps. Remember, our goal is to get x by itself. So we'll add 12 to both sides. And then, so you get 49 over here, 37 plus 12. And then on this side, this go away, so 9x. And now our last step is to divide both sides by 9. So our final answer is that x is going to be equal to 49 divided by 9. You can't simplify that any further, so that is fine for your answer. All right, next. So this is a little bit different from what you guys are used to. Okay, and A not so much, but B is a little bit different. So we have f of 2 means we just got to plug 2 in for x, which I think you guys have been really good about realizing that that's what that wants you to do. So once you do that, you're like, okay, 2 minus 10 is negative 8, and so negative 40 divided by negative 8 equals 5. All right, and then part B is asking you to find x when f of x equals 5. So this is where we take our equation and set it equal to 5. Now you might be like, man, how am I supposed to get x when x is in the bottom of a fraction? So anytime you're in this situation, the first step is the same. And that first step is to multiply both sides by the denominator to get it out of the fraction. Okay, so we're multiplying by that on the left side and also by that on the right side. Okay, once you do that, you then have a much simpler looking problem that looks a lot like the stuff we did at the top of the page. Okay, so now we can go ahead and do our good old distribution. Okay, so negative 40 equals 5x minus 50. And remember, we're now on a journey to get x by itself, so it would be wise to add 50 to both sides. So on the left side, negative 40 plus 50 is 10, and on the right side, we are left with 5x. So our last step is to get x alone again, so divide by that 5, and we get a final answer of 2. Okay, you need to know how to do this for the quiz, so make sure this makes sense. If not, please ask me for help. All right, we're almost there. Now we have some domain and range practice. So when we're talking about domain, we are talking about x values, right? X values and left to right. Okay, so the domain, we notice that the leftist point we have on this graph is right here, and that lands us at negative 2 on the x-axis. So we're going to start at negative 2, and we're going to give negative 2 a bracket because it's a closed circle, because it's a regular point on the graph. Okay, and it goes on forever and ever in the right direction, so we're going to put infinity as our right bound. Okay, now for our range, we have lowest to highest, and we're focusing on the y values, low to high. So the lowest we get is still, this point is also the lowest, just like how it was the leftist. Now, it's a coincidence that this also ended up at -2, but it won't always be the same as the number we used for domain. Okay, and then it's going up forever. If you could see this graph go on and on and on, it's going to get higher and higher and higher. So the other bound is infinity. All right. Okay, last problem, everybody's favorite. I know we've done a ton of these, and we will keep doing them until you guys are comfortable. So for this problem, you're going to need your graphing calculator, okay? And we got to make this graph. So we're going to go to y equals, and that's where you type your equation in as you see it. So as you see, I have already typed this in for us. And then you're going to hit graph. So we have a lovely parabola right here. And so you want to use this to figure out some key points. So the vertex, you can tell it's this lowest point, but if you're struggling to see it, you can always go to the table and figure out where your lowest y value is. So if you scroll here, and let me pull this up to be bigger. If you look at these numbers, we can see that we go 15, 8, 3, 0, -1, and then we start climbing back up, 0, 3, 8, 15. So this right here is our vertex. Okay, that's that point that separates the two halves of the graph. So -5, -1 is our vertex. -5, -1. Okay, x-intercepts. Let's look at our x-intercepts here. We can just look at the tick mark. So 1, 2, 3, 4. There's one at -4, 5, 6, and then another one at -6. So negative, I don't even remember what I said. -4, 0, and -6, 0. Sorry, that looks kind of ugly. All right. Next, y-intercept. So for that, we're going to need to do a little work. We want to go to our table and find out where x is going to be 0. So we're going to go down here, and if you look, we don't have to do any more scrolling. Right here, in fact, let me scroll down to it. Right here, you see that x is 0, where y is 24. So that is our y-intercept. 0, 24. Okay, our minimum, so before we continue, let's go ahead and draw this graph. We have enough information. So we can say -5, -1 is our vertex. And then we have -4, 0, and -6, 0. So these guys. And then, okay, my graph's going to be really questionable, but yours will be better because it will be on my Open Math. All right. So now for the minimum. Minimum is the lowest point, right? This right here is our lowest point. And that's going to be, oh wow, I even drew the graph wrong. Guys, I'm struggling. -5, -1, there we go. Now that's going to be our lowest point. All right, whatever, we're gonna just go with it. Okay, so our lowest point is going to be right here at -5, -1. The vertex is always going to be like your highest or lowest depending on like whether you have a regular parabola or upside down one. Maximum, this thing goes on forever and ever in the upwards direction, so there is no maximum. Okay, axis of symmetry, that's this right over here. And where it's at -5, so x equals -5. All right, so domain, you can see that if this graph went on forever and ever, it goes in the left and right directions forever. So -infinity to infinity. And if you hear yelling in the background, I'm very sorry. My roommate is being loud. And range, so the lowest point on our graph is going to be right over here, right? And range focuses on y values, so we know that our range starts at -1. Now we have to give -1 a bracket because it's a regular number on the graph. And our graph goes up and up forever and ever, so it goes towards infinity. All right, and that is all for today. I hope that this helped. Good luck on the quiz.